Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
Just talk to us about what happened, these reports that have come out, the Fabio Wardley Jarrell Miller fight on the 7th of June. Has Jarrell Miller pulled out of the fight?
That I don't know yet. That came out that we've not managed to get hold of anyone at the moment. There's a time difference. So we're going to find out today where we are. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But if it is, then we'll have to find a replacement opponent. But I'm hoping that's not the case.
They're talking about your man Fabs Wardley contesting the interim WBA title. Doesn't Pulev have that strap? But look, you know, they've got Badu Jack and Michaelian challenging for the WBC title. Which one is the interim challenger and which one has the full title? I read that Frank Warren will not be cancelling the show regardless. People have already put it out there like the fight is cancelled, but Frank said it's not confirmed. Not looking good though. Ipswich Council approved of the fight going ahead at Portman Road. Fabio will be very disappointed. But they're looking at a top 15 WBA opponent. Fabio's ranked at number 1. You've got Hunter, Moses, Jarrell Miller. Now, after they adjust these rankings, Jarrell Miller. Lenio Perot, the Cuban, who he was supposed to fight before Miller's name came up. Perot now signed to Matchroom. Bacoli obviously is fighting this weekend. Hrgovic won't be ready in time. That would have been a very good opponent. Mahmoud Shah, Murat Gassiev. Johnny Fisher's got a fight booked in. How is he ranked at number 10? They've got Luis Ortiz at 15. Now, hopefully some people will understand what I was talking about in the comment section because they didn't seem to get what I was saying. I was saying when you bring someone like Jarrell Miller in because you want him to liven up press conferences and weigh-ins, you've got to buy everything that comes with that. Frank's worked with him before. With the Dubois fight, he managed to get through that whole camp and the whole build-up for that fight and get in the ring, and it was successful on Riyadh season. But when it goes wrong, he's popped twice, cancelling a couple of fights on Matchroom and on Top Rank. We don't know if he's injured. We don't know. The British Boxing Board of Control did withhold some of his purse, and they were debating whether he was going to get a fine. Has that caused an issue? Hopefully he's not withdrawing because of that, because, listen, Frank will slap a lawsuit on Jarrell with no hesitation. And I had the receipts somewhere, I couldn't find them, but a lot of his purses have been ate up in what he owes his former promoter Dimitri Salita, and probably other people he owes money while dealing with the situations he's put himself in after popping for taking peds. And while he's inactive, not fighting, debts are racking up. His purses are getting eaten up with what he owes people. So maybe after the board withheld or fined him, he said, nah, I'm not dealing with this. Because it could be just the reality, he's fighting for nothing. All his money is going out in debts. He definitely owed Eddie Hearn money. I think Eddie might have wrote it off. And I thought his issues with Salita were resolved when he took the Fabio Wardley fight. But who knows? Surely he's ran out of chances with these promoters on these big events. But what's the truth? He'll knock out a couple of stiffs, get his voice heard on some social media platforms, and some promoter who wants to sell a fight is going to get him there to shout, push, scream, and they'll have their fingers crossed, hoping this doesn't go wrong. And that's Jarrell Miller's career.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
Are they going to withhold some of Daniel Dubois' purse? Because he pushed Usyk, didn't he? At Wembley. He pushed him. Don Charles and Don Charles' son have gone after Usyk about the low blow controversy, calling him a con man, saying that he's not a man of God. I don't know all about that. Don Charles is obviously trying to get a reaction out of Usyk. For what good that does, I don't know. Usyk, I haven't got no quotes, but I've listened a bit to the press conference. He seems very dismissive of Daniel Dubois. Very dismissive. Maybe it's because of the low blow controversy and the big deal that Frank Warren, Don Charles and Daniel made about it. The bottom line is, Daniel lost the fight because he quit, not because of the low blow or the borderline punch, let's say. He lost because he quit. Usyk doesn't react brilliantly to borderline or legal or illegal body punches. We know that. And Daniel is going to go straight back to that area and try to replicate a similar shot and see if the referee's on his side. And seeing that the fight's at Wembley, he should be confident. He's younger, he's improved. But at the same time, Usyk really wants to punish Daniel for besmirching his name, for Don Charles besmirching his name. And no disrespect to Don, but his son sounded like an absolute idiot talking about peeling people's eyes out and stuff. You sounded like an absolute nutter. Low blow aside, there's something about Daniel that Usyk just didn't seem to respect. Maybe because the fight was at Poland, and Poland is basically neighbours with the Ukraine, and Usyk maybe felt very comfortable there. But he was teeing off against Daniel. Usyk throws a lot of punches, but there seemed to be some venom and spite and disregard for Dubois, the way he was attacking him. Don't be surprised if we see a more aggressive Usyk. And Daniel, everybody's saying that he's turned it around, but I think he's still got them on top bully instincts. And if it ain't going his way, Usyk will give him flashbacks of the first fight, where Daniel was basically diving on the canvas after getting hit. In fairness, he did overcome adversity in the Miller fight, the Hrgovic fight, and the AJ fight, but they're not Alexander Usyk. If Daniel can become undisputed champion, beating Usyk, that'd be absolutely huge. You'd have to give Daniel his full props, and maybe it's just his time. He's got a great shot at it. I've noticed a lot of Brits don't want Daniel to win. They want Usyk to win. I've noticed that. They're going to probably say, well, Don Charles is annoying us, that's why we want Usyk to win. And they're entitled to pick who they want to win. They don't have to be patriotic to Daniel. They don't have to do that. But Usyk has miles on the clock. And if Daniel is prepared to walk through fire to get it, who knows? If he can replicate the same type of form he displayed against AJ, this is close to a 50-50. You'd have to have Usyk as the favourite. But I wouldn't be shocked if Dubois won. He actually boxed pretty well with Usyk. Didn't look out of place with Usyk. I didn't see Usyk leaving the presser, but some say he felt a little disrespected and he walked out, or he walked out with an aura of extreme confidence. Which was it in your opinion? Simon Jordan said to Frank Warren, if you put Anthony Joshua against Joseph Parker on the undercard of Usyk versus Daniel Dubois, then you can make it a Wembley Stadium fight. There is a ring of truth to what Simon is saying. AJ does bring the money to the weight class. But he was also trying to wind up Frank as well, that neither Fury or Daniel can draw like AJ. Frank was defiant and said, no, it's a stadium fight in its own right. They don't need AJ, according to Frank. And the promoters want to keep these events in the UK, or at least they pay lip service that they want the fights in the UK, but they're prepared to sell the lucrative British domestic scene to Riyadh. Of course they are.
Just in the gym. Happened to bump into somebody you might know. We back.
You know what time it is.
You know what's coming.
Tyson Fury's popped up with Sugar Hill. So people are speculating that the AJ fight is going to happen. When? I don't know.
I don't know how they're going to get into the ring unless the Saudis put up a check. If they want to do this in the same way they've done Dubois versus Usyk, I can't see this as anything more than a 50, 60 million pound fight. And I don't think either of those boys, maybe Joshua, but I don't think Fury's going to get in a ring for 25 million quid. I know people probably have to take a deep breath when they hear 25 million quid. But if you've just been paid 75 million quid for your last fight, you probably ain't stepping back into the ring for 25 million quid.
Simon Jordan is saying, if they're going to do Fury versus AJ like Daniel versus Usyk, meaning without the Saudi money, how do they go about doing it? And first we've got to ask, why are the Saudis not back in this fight? Is this the sign that things are changing? They're just waiting for these contracts with Matchroom, Queensbury, Golden Boy, Top Rank, Boxer, PBC to run out and do their own big events promoted by Ring Magazine? Credit due to Klimas, Krashoff, Usyk, Frank, George, Francis and them for being able to put on a show like this without the Saudi money, without the Saudi promotion. Them film trailers that they do, they won't have that. They won't have as much promotion from the Ring Magazine. The undercards are likely to be a little depleted without the Saudi money, and that could have a bearing on how much people turn up at the stadium or purchase pay-per-views, because it's going to be on pay-per-view. Can it match up to the numbers that Eubank and Benn have just posted up? But they've managed to make it work, and this is something that British promoters and outside parties like Team Usyk have to think about. Yeah, it's great having Saudi involvement, but it's important to maintain some independence, and you can put on big shows without them, because you never know what's around the corner. The Saudi investment may dry up, and then what? What are you going to do? Oh, well, we're not getting their money. We're not putting on big fights no more. But Usyk Dubois is not Fury versus AJ. I know Usyk's beat them all, but it's not the same fight. And without the Saudi investment, I'm not sure if Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn can crunch the numbers to make it work. I'm not sure if they can. Eddie got the site fee together, 2021. That was for Undisputed. That was with the Saudis, not Turki Al Sheikh, but the Saudis who put AJ versus Ruiz together. The first big Western Saudi boxing event. Fury walked away because Wilder won some arbitration to get his rematch for that WBC title. But outside of the Saudis' involvement, Eddie and Frank have always butted heads about making that fight. It's just never actually happened. And don't get me wrong, AJ's going to want a good purse too, but Tyson Fury's definitely going to want over the top money. Now the Saudis could put AJ and Fury on at Wembley, but at the same time they want to develop the infrastructure for their own tourist trade by bringing them fights to Riyadh. The compromise could be a 2-fight deal. The first fight at Wembley or White Hart Lane and the rematch at Riyadh. And Dubois and Usyk, July the 19th, Wembley Stadium. It's ambitious. Can Dubois stand on his own too now and get in the mix with Fury and AJ? We can put him in Wembley. He'll put 90,000 in there. Are we there yet with Daniel? And Usyk has been prolific in the UK, defeating AJ at White Hart Lane, defeating Derek Chisora, Tony Bellew in the UK. The Usyk versus Dubois announcement hasn't yet put Eubank and Conor Benn on the back pages. It hasn't. Conor Benn wasn't Good Morning Britain today. One of the biggest names in boxing. Chris Eubank is now the people's champion with a lot of the British public because they sided with Chris in their war against Conor the drug cheat. They're talking about a rematch and there's just so much history, nostalgia, and the fight was absolutely brilliant. This is trending news in the UK. Not Usyk versus Dubois, not Fury and Sugar Hill showing up on some social media site. It's Benn and Eubank. I'm wondering why Frank didn't go for Usyk versus Dubois at White Hart Lane. 65,000 might be an easier target in terms of selling out the arena. Because you want to sell out the arena. Because that's the threshold, that's the standard for UK boxing, selling out big arenas. You don't want to do Wembley and sell 70,000. Froch and Groves did 80 how many years back, and that was a big deal back then. But things have moved on. We're just at a point right now where some fights and really good matchups, where the promoters are hoping to do sold out gates, huge pay-per-view numbers, are not so much going to fall through the cracks, but they're not going to make the type of money that's going to satisfy the promoters and broadcasters. And I'm wondering if Usyk and Dubois might be one of them fights. They're talking close to 1 million, over 1 million pay-per-view buys for Eubank versus Benn. Let me tell you this now. The rematch is going over to Saudi. Forget all this, Conor's going to fight for welterweight titles and Chris is going to fight Johnny Beck and all these complicated, obscure names who are likely to bruck him up because that's his track record stepping up. If you do 1 million pay-per-view buys, rematch.
We can run it back, it's no problem.
No receipts, no sources. This is just a hunch. Deal's probably done already. The only thing they're going to have to work out is the weights, rehydration, Chris fighting at 160. But if they've done it once, they'll work out how to do it again.
Shall we do it again? Yeah! Shall we do it again?
Just paid for the 2 pay-per-views for this weekend. £35 for the bundle. May the 2nd, Times Square, New York. Ryan versus Rowley. Devin versus Ramirez. Tio versus Barboza. That's Friday the 2nd of May. On the 3rd of May, Saturday, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Canelo versus Skull. Bacoli versus Ajagba. Mikaelian versus Badu Jack. Sarase versus Munguia. 2 pay-per-views for 34 quid because they know nobody's really going to buy it over here. It's the graveyard shift in terms of time zone for British boxing fans. And in all truth, I think we should have got 2 for 1 over here. Yeah, 2 pay-per-views for 1 is what they should have charged us. And they better hope it don't piss down on Friday at Times Square. It's an outdoor event, apparently. Not everybody's going to pay for everything. Whether the fighters consider themselves superstars or their promoters think the fighters are all that, not everyone's going to pay for all of it. There is a whole lot of traffic at the zone. And not all of it is pay-per-view, but there's a lot of traffic. So A lot of people will watch boxing until they get their fill, and they'll do other things rather than just watching all the cards that DAZN are putting on, unless you're a hardcore nut like some of us. And a lot of people certainly ain't going to pay for all them pay-per-views. And the thing is, the Ring Magazine or Turkey, they'll put the fight on their YouTube channels maybe 10 hours after the live event. And someone on YouTube will upload it illegally. I'm not promoting illegal streams or upload. I'm not promoting that. But yeah, basically, it's $90 for the two events in America. The Times Square event and the Riyadh event. Now, people are complaining that DAZN is too expensive. Well, it was $80 alone for Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach. What are we talking about here? You're getting two pay-per-views for the price of one nearly. Not unless someone's telling me that Tank is a higher value commodity than Canelo. I wasn't sent that memo.
Boxing
Beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.